Hey, welcome everyone to Coding Bootcamp for Beginners with Joel Sprouse. This is week 1, getting started.
Yeah, thank you very much. This is really exciting. This is one of our first boot camps on this brand new Discord server, CodeCamp, where well, I'll tell you all about it now. That's the wrong slide. Sorry, messed up there already. Come on. So yeah, let's skip all of this. I hope you can all hear me. Do let us know if you're struggling for whatever reason. So we are a brand new Discord server just opening up, and we want to help take your idea of software and turn it from just an idea, take it through design and development, and hopefully even a published software that gets downloaded by the general public. Now we are just starting up, as I say. This is a completely free course, and there'll be lots of free classes, events, and workshops coming soon. And there will be some paid classes for VIPs and for our supporting members. And we are a part of Skill Camp. Now, Skill Camp is a not-for-profit, non-profit organization, and as an organization, we want to help you achieve whatever goals you have in your life. Pick up new skills. So we've got several servers, as you can see there. We offer classes from screenwriting to making films, uh, animating, writing novels, learning new languages, and learning programming. So you can go into our Discord server, and there's a channel called Partners, and there's links to all of our servers there. What are boot camps? So boot camps are courses that take you from idea to first version. Um, so there's be 2 hour classes every week for the next 6 weeks. You can see some of the boot camps that we do. The ones in yellow are for screenwriting. The one in green is novel writing, and the black one is coding. So this is a 6 week boot camp. This is our subscription tier. So for our supporting members, VIP is a basic $9 a month, and that helps us to keep going with our free events. Unlimited gives you access to our paid classes, and also our video library. Now, as I say, we've got lots coming up. Hopefully, once we finish this coding bootcamp for beginners, we'll do a database bootcamp to teach how to build databases, a website bootcamp, and lots more. And we'll be doing team huddles soon. Team huddles, so every so often we'll get together as a group for designers. So the next one is, you can see there, Monday. All times are PST, by the way. So if you're in the UK, that's 8 hours behind. For example, our design huddle is for designers, whether that's of websites or software or whatever, UX, UI designers, and we'll get together and we'll give feedback to each other basically. Script Camp is for screenwriters. There's fly there. There's lots of different events, workshops, classes on Script Camp, and you can see all of our others there. And we've got a couple more camps coming soon. Lingo Camp for people who want to learn a language, and Design Camp, which is more design focused, whether that's graphic design, UI design, and so on. So, what are you going to achieve in this bootcamp? Now, I want to stress this and make this very clear. You will not achieve amazing things here, because this is for absolute beginners, and this is just to sort of, yeah, it's a beginner course really. So it won't look brilliant. It won't be perfect, because no one is perfect. Um, this boot camp is, yeah, for people who don't know anything about coding, and only teaches the basics, and it takes a lot of years to be good at programming essentially. I've been doing it for 5 years and I'm still not brilliant. And so this will teach you really the principles of programming. That's what this is about, really, about the basics. And once you learn Python, I think most other languages just are that bit easier to learn rather than know nothing about coding and then moving on to C Sharp, for example. So here's our schedule for 6 weeks. This week will be mainly setting up Python, talking about Python and what it does. And we'll start looking at the basics as well. Week 2 will be getting user input, so forms and that sort of thing, getting text in and storing them as variables to sort of affect what the program will do next. And we'll do if statements and loops. Week 3, we will learn about functions and also a bit of making the computer do arithmetic. And so in the orange boxes, you can see what we'll make for each week. So next week, we'll be making a login form. Week 3, we'll be making a calculator. Week 4, that'll be sort of list and art. We're going to cover 2 topics. So we'll make a shopping list, either a shopping list or a to-do list. And we'll also make some cool things in art and start using Python to actually draw things on the computer screen. Week 5, hopefully by this point you'll have learned enough to understand how Python works. And I'll give you some files and bits of code that have errors in them, and we'll ask you to, fix those errors and fix those bugs. And we'll also look at file handling, and then week 6 we'll actually be connecting to APIs, basically third-party data sources, and we'll build a weather app. So there's an API that gives you the weather forecast, and you'll be able to take all of that data and hopefully put it into an app that will work for other people. They can run the program and get a weather forecast, and we'll try and do that for week 6. Excuse me. Right, so my experience is mainly in web development. I have about a decade of experience with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I taught myself all these things. I also know how to make databases, and I have made an online directory for people. That was for fitness trainers. So yeah, my portfolio includes business websites. I made a website for a bakery. I've got online surveys, which I've made from scratch. And I learned Python at the age of 14. Now, for Python, we're going to need to install it. I think that's the best way, really, because you could use the fiddle, which is option 2 on the right. If you know that your internet isn't going to allow you to listen in and to download at the same time, then go ahead and use the fiddle, the URL on the right. But as we progress through this course, I recommend that you don't do that, because in my experience, it doesn't always work. It very often causes errors that you wouldn't get if you download Python. So I will send you the link. Actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to send you the link. Oopsies. No, don't do that. And I'll show you how to download it. I'll put the link here in the classroom chat. And then if you all click on that, and we'll download Python together. Just hopefully, if you hover over downloads, all releases, this will say whatever your operating system is. So if you're on a Mac like me, it will say download for Mac OS. If you're on Windows, it will give you the right version, and you'll just click that grey button there. If you can all do that, and just sort of let me know once you've got it installed. But like I say, if you can't access for whatever reason sorry, open something by accident. If you can't for whatever reason access or download Python this week, then go ahead and use the fiddle. That's the wrong one. Pythonfiddle.com. I'm just going to paste that link there. Okay. So use either of those two links for me, please, because that will allow you to follow on with us. We'll come back to this, I think. Now, normally before you create any form of software, you'll do multiple things to sort of work out whether your idea is a good one or not. Sort of figure out if there's a demand for it, whether it's a good use of your time, basically. So there are a few things you want to think of, and this is just a quick list. So you might want to think about functionality. So what will your app do? What do you when a few thousand people in an ideal world, if a few thousand people have downloaded your software or are using your software, what do you want them to be able to do? What functionality will it have? What will it do? What category does it fall under? Will it be a game? Will it be a productivity app? Entertainment app? What sort of category does it fall under? And the reason we ask that is it will affect the design and the development. And what devices will it need to run on? Now, this has a massive impact on which language you will actually use. So, Python isn't very good at creating user-friendly interfaces. That's more for the backend. What's called the backend, which is sort of the code that runs the app behind the scenes. So if you're thinking about what devices it needs to run on, if you have a Mac, for example, you will need to use Swift, which is what allows you to make Mac apps or iOS apps, and so on. If you're making an Android app, for example, you will then need to use C# and Java. So you really need to think about what devices will it run on, what sort of what are you how will users be able to access the software? And did I write that point down or not? I can't remember. It might come up later. Is there another app similar? So you don't want to obviously have copyright, but not only that, if there's no demand for an app, if there's another app that's similar, you don't want to spend lots of time creating it when actually it already exists. You don't want to reinvent the wheel, essentially. Yeah, I do. So the third thing you want to think about is who will use it. So, what sort of demographics, what gender, what age, these kind of things. Because if you're creating a game, for example, you're going to want to think about who will actually play this game. Who do you want to attract? Who's your target audience? And that will impact the design of it. So if I was designing a game for, I don't know, a 6-year-old girl, then I'm going to use lots of pink and lots of pretty patterns and, all that kind of thing. Whereas if it's only for or primarily for men, you're not going to use a lot of pink. So you do need to think about who will be using it, and that will influence, what it will look like and how it functions as well. So yeah, did that. So those are the things you sort of need to think about. I wonder if you're here for because you want to actually create an app. Maybe you've got an idea for an app in your mind already. We probably won't create it in this bootcamp, but maybe you're here as a starting point. Sort of, you've gone, oh, I have an idea for an app that I want to make, but I don't know how to code, and maybe that's why you're here today. Is that the case for anyone here?
So
No?
you're asking basically, anyone have an idea for an app or something that you
Yeah.
want to create, or maybe like a website or something that you're interested in
Yeah,
making?
maybe for the future, not necessarily for now. But yeah, in the
Mhm.
future, do you have an idea for an app that you want to create? Um, I'm looking to build websites rather than apps, but apps are also interesting. Yeah. Um, excuse me. Yeah. So I do a lot of building websites.
Mhm.
But yeah. So what, out of interest, what sort of websites are you looking to create? Um, yeah. Is there anyone who's got sort of ideas about what they want to create? I guess is what I'm asking.
You hear me?
A Discord bot. So, yeah, Discord bots are interesting. I've made a couple of those. Um, and yeah, there are plugin, that's all the word. There are modules in Python to actually, make a Discord bot. So, I personally, when I made a Discord bot, I've used JavaScript. But yeah, Python is a really popular way of doing it. Um, and yeah, maybe I should do like a class on making a Discord bot. That could be interesting. Um, Nothing too specific, but probably more side hustle, freelance type of thing. Okay, yeah, cool. There's um, a lot of demand for website building at the moment. A lot of demand. It's a very competitive market as well. So if you're good, then yeah, it's a good market to go into. Um, I really want to do cybersecurity. Yeah, security is, yeah, one way around. Python is used a lot in cybersecurity, um, for testing and a lot of things. Um, so yeah, if you have got a specific project in mind, you will need to think about what you're trying to create. Is it a game or an app? What genre is it? What devices will you make it for? And initially, you will want to make it just for one operating system because otherwise it is a nightmare having two or more projects going at once and trying to make them the same. There are ways around it, but yeah, you start off with one operating system generally, and add it to other systems. Uh, right, has everyone got their Python downloaded, or everyone got the fiddle? Oh, Chess AI. Yeah, that's Python, yeah, that you definitely can use Python to make AI. It's definitely used to make AI. Um,
Just
yeah.
just wanted to check, is anyone having trouble accessing, the text channel or watching the video? If you're having some tech problems just with your mic or anything, you can also type. And you know, if you see where Joel posted the link to download, is everyone able to see that? Okay.
Can I ask that people give a thumbs up in the chat or something like that so that I know,
Mhm.
if people are managing okay. I understand people might not want to speak for whatever reason. But yeah, if you can just um have a thumbs up in chat.
And if you're
Finish off the download now, cool.
great. So if you click the little open chat button, you can type as well. So
All good over there. Cool.
if anyone's, either mic's not working or you just prefer not to talk, you can click the open chat button and it'll open a little text chat where you can type in there just in case you're not able to use your mic.
Just to clarify, just to make sure, because I've having a live report of issues with my screen. Can everyone see my screen okay?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Okay.
Yeah, it looks good over here.
Alright, fine. If you are having trouble, there should be click my name and there should be like a watch stream button for you. Yes, you should. Oh, sorry. Go on.
Can we also run our code in Visual Studio Code?
Yeah, it's fine. The reason I gave those two options was just simplicity, basically. But yeah, if you want to use Visual Studio Code or any other code editor, then yeah, go ahead. As long as you can make sure that it's running in Visual Studio Code. But let's go ahead and write our first program. Right, so if you open up Python, what you should have is something that looks a little like this on the left. Maybe not. Bear with me 1 second. Right, there we go. Something on the left, it's just a blank document basically. And we're going to write a bit of code. That's just there's pretty much the simplest code you can write. It's on one line. Print. Open print. Print. And it will turn purple. Open parentheses. Speech marks. And we're going to type hello world. Now, what this code does is it will print, it will output rather whatever you've put in the print bit here. Whatever you put between the speech marks, it will output. Now, if you run it, so if you're on Mac, press Command R, and if you're on Windows, press F5, it will ask you to save it, and once you do, save. You'll get another window that pops up. That just looks like this. And you can see it there. Hello world, it's outputted that line there. Don't ask me why hello world. That's, I guess, something of a bit of a tradition in among the programming world. Any programmer who's learning any language for the first time, that is one of the first lines of code that they will actually write. Just because it tends to give you a bit of an idea of how Python works and so on.
Better than goodbye world, right?
It could, I mean, hypothetically, can have your code say whatever you want it to say. But hello world is just what people say. Now, I'm going to switch my mic very quickly. Let me know if the audio quality changes. Otherwise, I'm holding this forever. Give me just 1 minute.
Just bear with us a moment. Joel is just adjusting his mic. Be right back with us. Was everyone able to get Python downloaded and installed? Or if you're not able to install it, were you able to use the Python fiddle?
I'm using Visual Studio because I also use JavaScript and I'm trying not to use too many different editors.
Fair enough, that's fine. So I'm not sure what happened there. I suddenly got kicked off of my Discord. But yeah, Visual Studio code will work fine.
We had a question from Hippie about is it okay to use PyCharm?
As long as it can run Python, then yeah, you should be fine. You can use, I can't remember what they're called. There's a few different IDEs that you can use. That slide that I showed you earlier, that was more of a recommendations rather than anything else. If in case you don't have any sort of IDE already installed, then you should use one of those two options. But if you have an IDE or a software writing software, then software writing software, you know what I mean. That runs Python, then yes, do go ahead and use that. So if everyone has Python, or if everyone's able to run a Python program now, we can move on. Do stop us if we're going too fast. Okay, Ace, that's fine. You can go ahead and yeah, use Visual Studio. Oh, by the way, just because I saw it next to me, you can get some merch, which I got given. This is a laptop case. There we go. I just saw it and I thought I wanted to advertise that. But yeah, let's move on and yeah. Oh, geez. What's my computer doing now? There we go. So this is one of the simplest programs that you can write in Python. Just simply outputting a bit of text, which is called a string, and you can using the print function, you can get it to output pretty much anything you want. So, for example, I can get rid of the speech marks and have it say 1 plus 2. Oh, I guess a lot of background noise. Who's that? We're just going to mute you because that's a lot of background noise. Or I'll mute you in just a sec. Yeah, so if you run this now and save it, then it will output the answer. You can see it there on the right. It will output 3. So you can, do mathematical calculation and stuff. Now you can't really have a proper program without variables. So to set a variable, you have a variable name. So for example, x. It looks like algebra, it's not. X equals 1. I'm going to move this down here. And then change this to x. So now we have x equals 1. X is our variable, sort of like a container, as it were. So you have a container called x, and inside x is the value 1. So when you say print x, then you're basically saying print 1 plus 2, and we should get the same answer. And so that's variables that we use all the time. And you can later on change the variable so that I can reassign the variable to 5, for example, and run it, and it will output 7. Now, bear with me. Now, if I put back in my hello world, just to show you, print, you don't have to copy this. I'm just showing you how this works. Hello world. Now, each time that there's a print statement, it will put it on a new line. So the first thing it did, we're going from top to bottom. First thing it did was print hello world. You can see that there. And then it's doing these calculations, or rather these variable assignments and reassignments. So you've got x equals 1, but then we're changing it to x equals 5. and then you're printing this, so this is coming out a line below. Now, if we wanted to, we're going to move this down here. Please. If we wanted to have these outputs on the same line for whatever reason, we can get rid of this second print and then first close bracket and that bit, and put a comma there. And now we have it outputted here, hello world space 7. And so you can use that to have strings of information. So if I was to set this variable, I could call this variable name, set it to a string. You need speech marks to set it as a string or a text of information. I can remove this. Oops. Yeah. Remove that. So you can see here, we've got this hello here, and then we're closing the string, and then we can have comma, name, comma, and then we've got our string which has just an exclamation mark, and running that, and give us hello Joe. So that's it. That's just how variables work. So there's different data types. So for example, you have strings like this. You have integers, so numbers. You can have floats, which are numbers with decimals. You have arrays, which are basically lists. And you can have lots of different data types. We'll go over that a bit more. What week is that? Week 3, I think, or week 2. Now.
Anyone have any questions about anything Joel went over so far?
I know I go really fast, so do feel free to tell me to slow down. Cool.
Sorry, Sichan.
I'm going to assume everyone else is okay. So, now let's move on to what we're going to cover next week, because I'm moving quicker than I expected. So let's look at if statements. We can have so you can set variables, and depending on the variable value, you can have it run a different bit of code. So I'll show you what I mean. What's the best way for me to show you? So I was meant to do this next week, but because I moved a lot faster than I was expecting, I have to sort of catch up. Right, making software on the spot. If x is equal to 1, colon, and you'll notice that when you press enter, you've got this little indentation here, which means that everything that's indented is part of this conditional. So if x equals 1, then print x. Now I'm going to go before the if statement and set x to 1. If I run this, it will print 1. And you all understand why. Oh, so that should be if x double equals. Because 1 equals is setting the variable. So basically, x is 1. And then x is equal to 1. That's how you remember it. if you run that, it will give you 1. But if I change x at the top to 2, then it won't output anything at all, because we've set this if statement to a different value. It's not, the condition isn't met.
Jill, could I ask, is it possible to move your webcam window over a little to the left so we can see the output?
Yep, so give me 1 second. There we go. Right, so this, the way this is written, it becomes difficult to, what I'm going to do now is we're going to introduce, I don't know what to do, I'm really sorry, I'm throwing myself off because I've spoken too quickly, and now I've got lots of extra time. Let's just move on to week 2 completely. Let's pretend that this was part of the idea. We can have user input, and we can store it as a variable. And the way we do that is by doing, we're going to set this variable, we're going to call it input. Then we're not, that's a result. We're going to call it user. Now you can type in this input and the parentheses and speech marks. And inside of these speech marks, we're going to write what comes up in the shell, which is the right-hand window. And that's where our program runs. That all is sort of like a prompt. So we can have name. And write it like that. And get rid of this. So now when we run this, what we'll have, oopsie. What we'll have is a question come up on the right hand side asking for a name, which you can type in. At the moment it does nothing because all the program is asking for the input. It's not going to it is storing that information, but it's not going to do anything after that. Now what we can do is, this is sort of coming into our login form. You can say if user is equal to Joel or John.
And well, sorry, I'm in a class.
You're unmuted, just to remind you. Then you can say print access granted. And so let's test this out. It will ask me for my name, and because I've given it an answer here that matches the condition, if user equals, then it's going to give me answer, access granted. Now, what if I run this again? And I put in another name, say Ellie. That shouldn't have happened. I've got an error in my code. Oh. I think in Python you have to say user equals again here. Wait a second. Yeah, there we go. So don't forget to have or user. You have to repeat it in Python. it didn't give me permission, but it's not told me that access hasn't been granted. So what you would do in this scenario is you would say else. So basically, if the condition here has not been met, else colon, and again notice that this bit isn't indented, which means that we've closed this bit. So if this condition is met, then it will run everything that's indented here. In this case, it's just the one line, and then it will stop. Now, else print access denied. And now, if I type in another name, it tells me that access has been denied. So you can begin to see how you can create a login form with this bit of code. Obviously, in the source code, you wouldn't have all the usernames, because imagine if you had users signing up. If you had it like this, you would need to constantly change your code for each and every name. And so, you'd store this in a database, really, and have some way of the Python accessing the database to check. You would also have a password. Use that. Just make sure your mic is muted. Yeah. So you can also get a password. So, for example, password. And again, we'll input. So now what I can do is we'll move down John for a sec. And we want a password. So we'll say that Joel's password. And sorry, that was JavaScript, not Python. And password is equal to also 1234. Then remove this completely for now. We'll add it back in, I'm sure. Then it will give access granted. If not, then it will give us access denied. Let's test it. And now we've got access granted. Now, when you write software, part of the process is testing, and it's a bit of the process that a lot of developers hate. And basically, you just have to test any stupid thing that a user could possibly do, because if you have lots of users, the chances are you will have stupid users. Obviously, you don't tell the users that to their face, but you will have users who click the wrong buttons, who enter the wrong kind of input. And so this will be a recurring thing that we do in our bootcamp when we're making programs. We will be constantly sort of, testing our programs lots and lots of times. So we can have John, and we can have a random code, and access denied. Just to make sure that it works. Run it again. We'll type in the right username and the wrong password. Access denied. So no matter how simple the program, sometimes people make mistakes, programmers make mistakes, and so it's important just to test it over and over again. And yeah, the sooner you get that into your mindset, the easier it is to, the better off you'll be when you start developing more complex programs, right? Let's pause programming for a bit. I wonder whether That's not what I want. Yeah, I wonder where do you see programs in use? Let's go back a bit. Um, Name some examples of um, where you've seen software running, whether it's a login system or uh, just where do you see programming in your day-to-day life? I mean, it's literally everywhere. You can't, in this world, go on. Are you there? I'm having problems running multiple lines of code on Python. Yeah, so you should be clicking enter between all the lines. Which open web design. This is Python, and this bit doesn't have any web design. I'm not sure what's happening there. What are you running? You're doing Visual Studio, aren't you? Is it with, I was trying to answer the question, by the way. Oh, sorry. It'll run up in, show up in website design. Yeah, so it is literally everywhere. So the websites that you see, google.com, or Yahoo, or I'm trying to think of any website ever. But yeah, any website will have programming. You'll have your HTML, which is sort of the structure, the skeleton, so, as it were, of the text you have and the content. You have the CSS, which is your design and making it look nice, your formatting. And then you have your JavaScript, which is the functionality. So you said that you were having problems. Ace, are you having problems still, or go on and try and tell me if you are? But yeah, so you'll have lots of different code. So if you log into your bank online, maybe you'll have code that's running behind the scenes to make sure that you are who you say you are. To make sure that the right passwords have been given, the right security questions have the right answers to them. You'll have so much that's being checked and so much information, and so many bits of programs running. Where else do you think you'd find programming? What other examples can you think of?
How about
You're still
the
able to, yeah.
I was going to say, how about all the applications that you use to do the things that you're doing? Like, so Ace was talking about website design, but like, so not only is the website using lots of code, but you need to run maybe lots of other kinds of applications or, tools just to create it, right? Like to make, just like an image or something in Photoshop or, all the different, I mean, I guess it's like almost 24/7 you're doing something that somebody coded, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I find it crazy sometimes. Every single button that you click, like just logging onto Discord here to be on our class here, you press so many buttons, and each of those buttons had to be programmed. You have functions and stuff, so that if you click the mute button, your audio is no longer broadcasted. You have the deafen button, so that you stop hearing other people on Discord. You have the invite links, and you have so much that is programmed. You literally can't avoid software in this day and age. And yeah, computers are really, really stupid. If you don't tell it what to do, it will do nothing forever. until it runs out of battery or whatever, until it runs out of power, it will do absolutely nothing. And when it does run out of power, it will do nothing. But unless you give it instructions and very specific instructions, it won't understand. So if I went back into my Python, if I change this to if I say change this to output, this wouldn't run because computers are so stupid. They have a limited number of words that you can use, and you have to use the right language. Otherwise, the computer doesn't actually understand English. It pretends it does. Python is very good at pretending it understands, but it doesn't. It's just, at the end of the day, the computer is just bits or ones and zeros, binary, constantly on off, on off, on off, on off, all of the time. And so when you're programming, you have to be very careful about what you're writing. You have to check it over and over in case you made a mistake. In case, as you saw earlier, your if statement isn't right. You have to be very precise and very accurate what you really want to say. Does anyone have any questions about Python or programming in general? Welcome, Connor. Thanks for joining us.
Hi. I won't interrupt. I don't know much anything about coding. My question is, what is coding? But I'll leave you guys to it. And if you're looking for where to type, you can mouse over the classroom channel and click that small white word bubble that says open chat if anyone is looking for how to ask Joel questions.
Yeah. I really want to try and make these classes interactive because I get bored of my own voice. But yeah, so again, coding is just about telling the computer what to do, basically. So if I go back to the program I wrote, you've got lots of you're setting variables and you're asking. That's not showing my code.
Yeah, maybe my question is, what have you guys been working on today? Just because I came from a different class and missed the beginning, maybe you can just give us a taste of what you've been teaching today.
Yeah, so you can see on the left here, this is the code that we wrote. So we have variables that have been set. So we've got user input here. And then if the user input matches prearranged text, why is it not showing? Sorry. I can see it fine, but it's not transferring over. Give me a second. I have no idea what that's about. So I can't get it to show my software for some reason.
It's all good.
How long has it been off? Oh, there we go. OBS is just having a hissy fit. Sorry, there we go. So we've got our variable user, and this function is checking for an input. If I run it again, it's asking this prompt here, the name, and you can type it in here, and it will ask for a password as well. And so if the user equals something that we've already determined and the password, then it will grant us access. And if not, if it doesn't match, it will give us another output. And so that's really what we've been focusing on, sort of if statements and inputs. And you can actually start to make forms So
Cool. Okay, so this would be
um,
to make a login page.
yeah, absolutely. But again, Python is a sort of back-end language, so you wouldn't really be creating anything that the end user would see on their screen, but you'd be creating a script that is being run behind the scenes. Um, so you very rarely would actually use the print function in a not professional software. That's not what I mean. But like in an app or a website where you use Python, you very rarely would use print because you're using something else to show that rather than just a bit of text on here. This isn't very user friendly, right? So Python is more of a backend language to create the brains of the program.
I think Sichin had a question. Go ahead, Sichin.
Yes. Is in Discord, is there like a reaction thing so you could like raise your hand if you want to ask the question?
If you're on PC, aren't you? Next to the disconnect button on the bottom, there's a smiley face, and you can use that.
And the disconnect button of the smiley face. Don't see the smiley face.
So do you see the grid where or the avatar? Oh, you're on the stream, aren't you? But if you can see the stream near the mute button in the middle of the screen,
Near the mute button.
just
Right.
to the right of it, there's a smiley face.
There's no smiley face there.
What's right to your button? Right to the mute.
Okay, there's a mute button, then there's a earphone button, then there's a setting button.
Oh no, so further right than that.
Further up.
Further right.
Further
Also,
up.
I just want to say it's possible to miss like you can use the emojis if you want. It's just sometimes the teacher might miss it. So if you just type your comment in the chat or just say I have a question in the chat, then they can call on you, and that might be just a little bit of an easier way to speak up. But feel free to ask your question now.
Okay, no, I was just listening to it, and I know this is a beginning class. But there are some videos on, some of the basics, and if the class would look at some of the videos, like some of the simple things like variables and stuff like that, it might be a little bit more useful in this class.
Sorry, say that again. I missed that.
I just want to suggest to the class there are some simple videos on, what is a variable, what is an if statement, such and such on YouTube, and it might be useful and more beneficial to them if they took a few minutes to look at a couple of those videos.
Yeah, there are a lot of resources out there. Yeah, a lot of resources that are really helpful at just explaining it in a concise way. But I think the idea of this class really is different people learn different ways. Some people prefer to be more interactive. It's more conversational. And so that's really the idea of this class. But yeah, absolutely. Some people do learn better through watching YouTube videos or, just trying to help themselves. I mean, everything that I learned, I just experimented and went, oh, what does this do? And oh, that vocab, different people learn in different ways. But yeah, thanks for that suggestion. I'm going to take a very quick break. I'll be back in just a second.
So while Joel is preparing for the next part of the class, does anyone want to share maybe just where you are, your personal experience with coding? Are you brand new to this, or have you experimented a little bit before with other languages? Or feel free to unmute and just share where you are and maybe what some of your goals are over the long term. Are you interested in working as a software developer or just developing your own project? I know Sichun mentioned about maybe developing like a chess AI.
I wouldn't mind sharing if no one else wants to. No one seems to want to speak.
Yeah, it's a very quiet class.
Okay, so what I would say to everybody else is, I'm a former programmer. I'm retired. I'm 70 years old. I used to program in Power Builder, which is a New York City agency. It's like a special language for business. Maybe about a year ago, I started getting interested again. And I've been looking at like maybe 20 or 30 videos on JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. I built several websites. I'm looking at React. I'm looking at like a lot of tools that are on the internet. There's a lot of free stuff. I've also bought a lot of stuff. I started looking at Python because sometimes like it's hard to look at 3 or 4 different languages at the same time. But I'm fairly familiar with HTML, JavaScript, and CSS now, and I started to look at Python. I'm so glad that Joel is willing to teach a free course in Python. It lets people get their feet wet, and some of the younger guys may want to become programmers. And it's a very high-paying profession. And I definitely would suggest that they pursue it. It does take a lot of practice. You need to look at a lot of stuff. And that's why I suggested, like, when you come to this class, I think it would be a lot more beneficial to people if they've looked at some things and they could ask some questions. Because I've looked at what y'all that, like, for instance, he went over a print statement, an if statement, and we're an hour into the class. And those are only 2 statements. So maybe a little preparation ahead of time might be good. And even if Joel would come up with like maybe something like a little homework for people to do. To look at some different things while they're not in the class, because you're not going to learn programming in 2 hours looking at a 2-hour class. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a very good point. Thank you for that. I did take a quick break. And when I took a quick break, I realized what Ace was talking about. Thankfully, my mum is on the course, and she showed me actually what the problem was. I should have gone over this, and so that's my fault for not clarifying. When you open Python, you should be using the IDE or idle. And then you click on the click Command N or Control N if you're on Windows, and that's what gives you the blank document that you can see on the left. So if you are having problems writing code on multiple lines, that's where your problem is. I'm sorry, I should have explained that. Is there a list of commands you can use? Yeah, so actually, going on to what C-Trend said, there are some resources that I can show you. So one of those is, hang on, let me pull it up. It's called Easy Python Docs. And that's sort of what we'll be going over for a bit for the first couple of weeks. I'll put my hands up and say I've never really taught before. This is sort of my first experience, so you're learning, but I'm also learning as well how to teach and how to, yeah. So teacher and I thank you for your feedback, because yeah, that really helps me to know what you need from me and all of that sort of thing. Let me paste this. See you, Heapy, thanks very much for joining us. Yeah, so this is easy Python docs. And again, it's the basics of Python. So if you would prefer to read, then yeah, you do go and read this. You've got outputs. My internet's running a bit slow, sorry. So you know how you can output a variable and string together. You've got inputs, comments, variables, and so on. There are different data types. I think that's the page that shows it. So yeah, so you've got an integer here, or a number variable, so age, for example. Let me zoom in a bit. You can have a variable using the speech marks, or inverted commas, whatever you call them. You can have a boolean. I never know how it's pronounced. So that can be either true or false. And so yeah, this is a really great resource to use, easypythondocs.com. And yeah, we'll go through sort of all of these. If you want to go ahead, you absolutely can. So yeah, it can be not a secure site. You should be okay, and I say that because you're not inputting anything into the site. So worst case scenario, realistically, all someone's going to get is a publicly available website that many people use. Yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Suchin. Sorry, did I hear someone else talking? I thought I heard an asking a question.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Joel. You said that Python isn't very friendly, user-friendly, and that it was used mostly in the, well, like the server area in the background. So what would you use it for? What sort of things would you use it for?
Yeah, so for example, I want to create or started to create a central heating system. So I don't know if you've heard of Hive, or actually a lot of different providers do it. So you can say, Alexa, turn on the heating, for example. So if I set up your Alexas, but you can say something like that. The chances are Alexa behind the scenes is running Python or something similar, and that is turning on your heating. So I started writing a program similar to that, using a small computer about that big, about the size of a credit card. And I used Python so that if you clicked a button, it would go to the relays in a boiler and turn on the boiler, right? So that's one thing that I've used it for. And you can use it to connect to databases and input information there. File handling, so you can open files that already exist. So say you have a TXT document, a plain text document with a list of different email addresses, for example. You can create a program to say for each item on this list, and that's a for loop for each entry on the list, then send an email. You can do that via Python. And there are lots of modules that other people make, so that to make Python more, yeah. And actually sent a good link there 15 websites made with Python, and there's lots of different services that people make. Netflix, YouTube, Instagram. So YouTube, I'm sure. So it says here YouTube use Python to upload their videos. I'm just getting this. Yeah, so you have lots of really massive companies that use Python to make software. So Spotify, for example, you'll often see Python behind search bars. So if you open up Spotify, you have a search bar so that you can search for songs. Python probably powers that search bar by checking Spotify's extensive database of songs to see, and uses algorithms as well to see which song is most likely that the user actually wants. Because if you type in a song called Love, for example, there'll be thousands and thousands of songs called Love, or that include the word love, and so there'll be some sort of algorithm inside Spotify, for example, that will try and work out what it is that the user wants to hear. So yeah, Python can be used for so many things. Yeah. But yeah, I think that generally it works best for repetitive tasks that you could do, but maybe you don't have the time to do. So sending out emails, maybe if you've got a template of an email, then yeah, you can go through a list of all the different email addresses.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have any questions? I think what we're going to do now is, oh, my goodness me, OBS does not like Python. Does everyone have the two windows of Python open? So you should have the shell on the right and the sort of source code on the left. I will show you. Come on, computer. I'm sorry about this. Here we go. There we go. Got it. So yeah, you should have two windows. You should have a blank document without any of this on it. If you don't have that, then click Control N to create a new file. And that's the one that you'll click run in. Yeah. Let us make. What do you think we can do to expand this project? How can we make this more complex? I'm going to hand it to you and see what you guys come up with.
Maybe some buttons or like a login screen.
Yeah, okay. So we can get into that. So Python doesn't what's the word? It doesn't by itself have functionality for buttons. But there is a module that we can install, and you don't have to download anything. Python will do it automatically. And it's called tkinter. And it's not a brilliant user interface, but it's much better than just the command line style interface or just the text. Now I'm going to open up TK and I'm going to import a module which is called TK enter. And the way you do that is at the top of the file. We're going to write import. No, go back from TK enter. TK enter. Import asterisks. Right. So TK enter is the name of a module that sort of creates a sort of more of a GUI or graphical user interface. That's what most people are familiar with when they are using a digital device. You click buttons, you input in input boxes, text boxes. So bear with me 1 second. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a variable which is called root. We'll leave this here for now. We'll move it down. We've got room to work. Root equals TK in the capital T. Right. And then so that sort of initializes or starts up the module, as it were. Bear with me. It's been a while since I've used TK enter. And my computer's crashing at the idea of me making it do work. So apologies. So my internet's completely crashed. There we go. And then we're going to have TK, no, root.main loop, brackets, root.main loop. Now, main loop basically creates a window. Let's make sure this is working. So now, oh, you can't see this. Hang on. I'm going to change the design so that you can see it. There we go. So when I run this now, you get this little window here. And this is the window where you're going to put everything, your buttons and your labels and your inputs.
Joel, just to let you know, I think you may need to Alt-Tab, because it's black screen right now.
What's that?
I think you may need to switch your window, your active window, back and forth or something, because it's not showing up on the maybe the projector screen.
Okay, give me a sec. I haven't changed anything.
I think just when you Alt-tabbed, it showed like the screen disappear and it went black.
Oh, yeah, I did that, yeah. Sorry, hang on. Windows. Switch. Not you. Not that one. There we go. Sorry about that. Make that quantity a bit better. Where are we? We are there. Right. So if I run this, again, you will find that you've got this little box here, and this box here is where you're going to put everything. Your buttons, your input text boxes, all of that is going to go in here. I'm really sorry, this is not the best way I've ever done it. Whoa.
We're going into the matrix.
Yeah.
That was actually kind of cool.
It was a very cool effect. It was not what I wanted though. Bear me a minute. Unfortunately, I can't, actually, what if I do that? You get to see all the behind the scenes of, that's the thing about live classes. Some things can't be helped though. TK. Right, there we go. I've now lost my shell again, but you shouldn't need it for this bit, so we'll be fine. Right. So we've got the import TK into, and that will do. That's telling Python to go and get a module that's been written by someone else, and is what will allow us to have this GUI or graphical user interface. We've got the root, which is telling TK into that it's going to need to create a window. And then you've got root.main loop, which is the method, or basically that's telling the TK into you need to open this window now. So the main loop will be closer to the bottom of the program. We'll create some more space here. Now, at this point, you will need to be creating labels. So we can have, we're going to call this, we're going to create a variable, we're going to call it message. At least for the time being, this will be changed at some point. Message equals tk.label. Now, this is telling TK into that it needs to create a label or text that can't really be edited. That will happen in the root. And we're going to define what text is after this comma. So we're going to create like text equals speech marks, and we're going to say username. Now, hopefully, if we run it, I don't know what I'm on. Got another code. I'm not sure why. Let's try adding as and see if that makes a difference. Don't copy this yet because I might be wrong. VK enter. And with that. And we change the name of the variable, so now we have to change this bit too. Oh, and then once you've once you've got that variable message, you then need to pack it. Message.pack, which then says basically you need to go into the window. There we go. So now we have our little minuscule window that says username. And then we'll create another, we can just copy and paste it for our username. So let's change this variable name to something that we're going to understand. Username, no, LBL for label, username, and change it for this as well. LBL username. Now this you can set to whatever you want, but this phrase has to be the same as this, otherwise it's not going to work. Now we are going to want a text box. Bear with me. And the way we do that is pretty much the same, except instead of it being a label, it will be text. So call this txt username, txt being text box, tk.text. Again, root to say you need to go into the root, which is our window. And then we can set the height. We won't worry about that now. And again, we need to pack it, I believe. Yeah. Dot pack. Txt is not defined. Oh. So I did. It has to be the same. They have to be identical. And now we have an absolutely enormous text box. So this whole black square here is a text box. That's why we're going to set our height here in the same sort of way as we did with our text in our label. Let's set it to, I'm not sure how big it should be, let's try 6. Sometimes coding is just about trial and error. 6 is still very big. Okay, so it turns out the 6 is actually referring to the lines, not to the number of pixels, as I thought it was. Okay. Try one more time. And then we have 1 line. So that's our label for our username. That's our text box for our username. And then we can do the same thing for our, I'm just going to copy this and paste it. We can do the same thing for our password. We're just going to change all of these variable names. Password. Password. Okay. And change this bit of text here. Right. I'm assuming text value is like that. Cool. So the way that we can see what. Let me just show you that it works. Make sure that it works. Right. So we've got our labels, and we've got our. That's going across the screen now, but you don't need to see that bit anyway. We've got our labels and we have our text boxes. Now, the way we figure out what the user has put into those text boxes is by doing, we're going to set a variable and we'll call it in username, as in whatever, oh, that's the wrong button, whatever the user has put in. So, in username is equal to equal to text username, I hope, dot get. So I keep clicking on the wrong buttons by habit. Dot get 1.1 for my end. And just to make sure it works out here, this is for debugging purposes, or basically to make sure that it's working as we expect. We're going to print the output of end username. Now we're not going to use speech marks here because this is a variable and not a string. We're calling this. Let's make sure this works. Please work. No. I'll make sure that's not working. So I'm looking at a website to try and figure out what I've done wrong. That's why I've gone quiet. Oh, the reason that's not working is because I've forgotten to turn this into a string. And so it was looking for a variable end rather than a string end. So what this is doing is this is getting the input from the first character up to the last character. So we could change this so that it would say only take the first 6 characters of the input, but actually we want it to go all the way to the end of the input, whatever that is. Right, run that. And yeah, again, this is just how particular coding can be. You have to get it exactly right. I'm missing 2 speech marks, and that is enough for the whole program not to run. Right, let's check Joel. And this bit doesn't matter. Oh, I can't submit this yet. The reason being I don't have a submit button. So let's go and get that. Is everyone following so far?
Anyone have questions?
You're using terms, Joel, that I don't understand, like string. I think I understand what a variable is, but you said string, and there was another term you use that I wasn't sure about. You said because it wasn't a string, it was something else, but I didn't know what that meant.
Okay, so I think that's because it was a string and not a variable. So a variable basically is a bit like a container of
Yeah.
data, which can be changed and reassigned, unlike a constant, which is another container of data, but that one never changes throughout the whole program. Now, you can have different data types inside of a variable. So you can have an int or integer, which is a whole number. You can have a float, which is a decimal. You can have a string, which is just an, uh, an assortment of characters, whether that those are letters, there's spaces, there's numbers, um, anything like that. That's a string, just a block of text, pretty much. Um, it's known as a string of characters. That's where it comes from, I believe. Um, so yeah.
So when you're writing your code, how do you know when you need brackets and when you need uh, these other little things you're putting in equal? How do you
Okay.
know when to use them?
Yeah. So we'll take print for example. This is a method. Is it a method or a function? They're quite similar, but essentially, this has a predetermined job. Print is a keyword that tells the Python you need to output this in on the right window in the shell. And so the brackets are saying you need to print whatever is in this. In this case, it's a variable, and you can tell that because it's not got the speech marks. We've set our variable up here in username. Can you see my mouse, by the way?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, cool. So we've got our username, which is set to this, which is the input that we've just got. So this will print variable, whatever the value of this is. I could change it to, sorry, go on.
What does the 1.0 end? What's that telling
Yeah.
you?
So 1.0 is you're going to take the data. So let me open up to the window again. Not this one. I was worried my computer would be able to handle all of this in one day. There we go. So we've got this window here, the username, so I can type in anything here. So 1.0 is saying from the start of this bit here, from before the input begins, and then the end is to the end of this bit. So the reason it's end and not 4 is because obviously if I wrote a longer name, Nacho for example, 4 would cut it off there, so you'd miss out the O. So the end just takes it to the end of the input.
Okay.
Right. Submit button, that's what I was doing. I need to figure out. It's been so long since I've done TK Inter. And there's a bit of a joke in the online community where if you don't know, the best developers don't know everything, they just know how to search things and integrate other people's code into it. Because really, in terms of programming, you can't really copyright stuff so easily because everyone has to use print, for example. At some point, you can't copyright print hello world because so many people use it. And so you can use lots of different websites, Stack Overflow, for example, in order to provide the answers to your questions. And a lot of the developer role is actually figuring out how to make other people's code match with your bits of code. So, for example, when we look at APIs, towards the end of this 6-week course, you'll be taking other people's data and figuring out how to take that data and put it into your bit of software. So actually, that there's a bit of a joke in the community about that. Yeah, it's about taking other people's information and trying to get it to integrate within the license terms, but trying to integrate it within your bit of work. Because otherwise you're constantly reinventing the wheel. And so you use modules like tkinter, because otherwise to rewrite, you're literally rewriting a wheel. And that wheel is, I don't even want to know how many lines of code you'd have to write. I'd imagine you're looking at 2,000 lines of code just to get that window and those buttons and the text boxes and so on. Right. So I am looking at a site called Stack Overflow, which is where most programmers go when they don't understand something. And sometimes Stack Overflow doesn't give you the right answers. So I would recommend Stack Overflow to you, but unfortunately, programmers can be really irritated if their time is being wasted. And so if you've not done your research properly and you ask a question that's already been answered, you can get a lot of people upset. So I don't recommend it to new people because of that. But there are plenty of other websites that are really good at helping you to understand and teaching you new things. But yeah, a lot of times coding is just about Googling it. Any books or channels I'd recommend. I mean, Google is your best resource. Actually, they're still on it, yeah. Google, like I say, is your best resource pretty much. Whatever you find on Google. Because why pay £20, $20 or whatever for a book when you have all the information for free on Google or whatever site you use? Right, so it looks like we're actually going to have to write a function to submit the data. Which we don't have time to do. So, okay. I'm sure TK's had a way of doing this. I'm going to have to come back to this another time, once I've refreshed myself. I wasn't expecting to get into this bit of the code today. But yeah, I will rethink my whole schedule because now I've got an idea of, how to teach and all of that stuff. Thank you very much for bearing with me. I know it's been a bit all over the place. I hope you'll stick with me because we won't be building APIs. That is a bit above beginner level. We will be using APIs. We'll be creating forms. We'll be doing all sorts of things. Hopefully you'll join me. But I think it's probably. Let's wrap up. Let me make sure that everyone understands. So you can have outputs using print. You can have inputs. You get if statements, and you can create loops. We'll show you that next week. How you can have loops to run the same bit of a program over and over again. And there are so many uses for Python. Programming can look so complex, and it's difficult to teach because there's so much that just it's difficult to try and stay in one straight line. But hopefully I'll be able to start showing you how you can build projects and programs. Yeah. I've been learning C and Python so much easier to implement. Yes, absolutely. C, I don't have any experience of, but just looking at it, if you're missing the syntax, or in other words, all the different punctuation marks or all the different symbols you need and stuff, it can be so difficult to do that with most other languages like C, C Sharp, Visual Basic, any other language. And that's why Python is so much easier. It's a lot easier to read and understand. Less types just have to type. Does anyone have any questions about the course or any about program or actually anything? Yeah. All right then. In that case, all right, no worries. We're finishing up now anyway. But yeah, thank you all very much for coming here. I will relook at the schedule and make things work out a bit better.
Ace had a question. Anything you recommend reading or practicing to prepare for next week?
Yeah, if you take a look at Easy Python docs, we'll be going through a lot of that content. Let me try and find the link again. There it is. And that will help you to understand the beginning of Python a bit more. But if you don't do that, that's fine. Just because we'll go through all of that next week, and we'll move at a much faster, well, not a much faster pace, but hopefully a more straight path rather than a bit everywhere. I'll try and be more prepared next time. But yeah, thank you all for being here. Nacho, anything you want to say?
Thanks so much, Joel. Great job hosting, and yeah, looking forward to next week. And thanks everyone for joining us. Also, I'll just, if anyone is interested in some of our other communities, so we also have lots of free classes in languages, or if you're interested in maybe teaching a language, let us know. We have lots of classes in, screenwriting, fiction writing, filmmaking, editing, video editing, and animation, as well as content creation, and more to come soon, including design camp and business and startup camps coming very soon. And I'll post the link there for everyone. You can check them out.
And you can also find it in the partners channel. If you look on the left of Discord and scroll up a bunch, sort of near the top, you'll find a channel called Partners. And that's got links to all of our camps, other Discord servers where you can learn other skills. In just a minute, it's a highlight of my week, table reads. That's happening on CodeCamp, where we read 5 pages of a screenplay that someone has brought. I will analyze it, and it's really good if you want to join that. If you're interested in writing novels, there's a novel bootcamp, which SkillCamp's founder Connor Kyle is running. I'm not sure what time that is. But yeah.
That's at noon on February 11th. Saturday, February 11th at noon.
That's my birthday, cool. Noon is 8 p.m. in the UK. I say that because I know that a lot of people are from the UK. So yeah,
Okay, thanks everyone. Have a great weekend.
thank you guys.